In the last hour suicide bombing, families attended same gatherings prior to attacks. In the last 2 hours, Indonesian child suicide bombers, indoctrinated every Sunday, family of suicide bombers attack churches in Indonesia. In the last 4 hours, Indonesian children who joined suicide attacks kept isolated by parents. In the last 6 hours, in the last 8 hours, Indon suicide bombs work of 2 families. Earlier today, Indonesia, ISIS suicide bombers used children in 4 attacks. Daesh claims responsibility for suicide attack in Indonesia, family of 6 responsible for 3 deadly church suicide bombings in Indonesia. Yesterday, Pope prays for Christians killed by preteen ISIS suicide bombers. Use of children in suicide bombings, a tactical evolution, experts say. 2 families carry out suicide attacks in Indonesia. Police family of suicide bombers kill 7 in Indonesia. Church attacks. Indonesia's family suicide bombers represent spiritual forces of evil. OSINT summary. Suicide bombings in Indonesia's East Java mark significant. For second day in a row, kids were involved in a suicide bombing in Indonesia. MWL condemns suicide attack on churches in Surabaya, Indonesia. An 8-year-old girl survived a suicide attack carried out by her own family. Second family stages suicide bomb attack in Indonesia. Family suicide bomb police HQ after friends did same at church's family carried out Surabaya police HQ suicide bombing. Indonesia police say see the family of suicide bombers who launched deadly attacks on 3 churches. Surabaya suicide bombings, barbaric, Muhammadiyah. A 4th suicide bombing strikes Indonesian city of Surabaya. 2 families behind deadly Indonesian suicide bombings. Police Indonesia's sick new suicide bomb threat. Parents with their children. Family of suicide bombers hits police headquarters in Indonesia. Indonesia suicide bombings video. Suicide bomb targets police HQ in Surabaya. Suicide attack targets police after Surabaya family church bombings. Children, families involved in suicide bomber attacks on Indonesia churches. Suicide bombers hit Indonesia's Surabaya again. Travel warning to tourists in Indonesia after series of suicide bombs. Family, child in Indonesia suicide attack. 4 and suicide bombing at Surabaya police headquarters. Indonesia horror continues as suicide bomber hits police HQ. Militant family uses child in suicide bomb attack on Indonesian police. Indonesia suicide bombings work of 2 families. Another family suicide bombers killed in New Indonesia suicide bombings as links with suicide attacks in Indonesia. Police Indonesia suicide bombers attack police headquarters. 10 people injured. Another family behind New Indonesia suicide bombings. Indonesia hit by second family suicide attack in successive days. 25 killed in East Java attacks, including 13 suicide bombers. Another family behind New Indonesia suicide bombings. Police suicide bombing at Indonesian police station caught on CCTV camera video. 4 suicide bombers on motorbikes hit Indonesian police HQ. 4 killed. 10 injured in Indonesia suicide bombing. 2 suicide bombers blow themselves up at police headquarters. Appalling. Church suicide bombings condemned by UN chief. New Surabaya suicide attack also involved 1 family. Suicide bombers at Surabaya police HQ. 1 family. Indonesia says new suicide attack also involved family, child. Video. Suicide bombers on motorbikes target police HQ in Surabaya. At least 10 wounded in suicide attack on police HQ in Indonesia. Suicide bombing hits police station in Indonesia. Terror group Jad linked to Indonesia family suicide attack. 4 suicide bombers dead. In Indonesia police HQ attack, authorities. 2 suicide bombers strike Indonesian police HQ. Another suicide bomb attack hits police HQ in Indonesia's Surabaya. Suicide bombers target police headquarters in Indonesia's Surabaya, Indonesia. Terror, suicide attackers hit police HQ. 2 suicide bombers blow themselves up at Indonesian police HQ. Indonesia. Terror, suicide bombers strike at police HQ in Surabaya. 2 suicide Bombers on motorbike hit Indonesian police HQ. Suicide bombings in Indonesia carried out by family of 6, kill 13. 2 suicide bombers blow themselves up at Indonesian police HQ, authorities. Suicide bomb follows deadly church attacks. Death toll from suicide bombings in Indonesia rises to 13. 13 killed as suicide bombers hit 3 churches in Indonesia. Video, family of suicide